Hi, I'm making an FPS Roguelike game. In this devlog, I work on building the first proper arena for my game, but firstly there are some much needed improvements I need to make to the UI. I first researched the layouts in other FPS games. I then made a rough plan for the UI. I then started making the actual UI, and I did this in GIMP. At first the top component was too complicated and didn't really fit the screen well, so I simplified it and I think it looked much better. Later I also made a symbol for the heavy rifle and changed some of the colours of the elements to help them stand out against the background and the rest of the menu. I also updated the UI for the upgrade menu and the main menu. Now that the UI is all done, work can finally start on the arena. In my game, the basic loop is that players will select an upgrade, also known as an implant, and will then have to defeat all the waves of enemies in the next arena. This cycle repeats until the player dies or until they can't kill all the enemies within the time limit. When actually modelling the arena, I didn't really do much planning. Looking back on it, I should have done a lot more, especially since it was my first time modelling any kind of 3D level. I was only really working on a vague idea I had in my head where it'd be like part of a floating cyberpunk city with a hangar for futuristic planes and buildings and stuff that you could go into. I quickly realised this was way above my skill level in Blender and just wasn't feasible, so I did end up simplifying it a lot. I did at least do a sort of block out of the arena before I started adding detail, which I would recommend if you're ever doing something similar. It helps a lot to visualise the level. Actually modelling the buildings took me a while, but then I brought it into Unity and I tried my best to make it look a little less boring by adding a neon effect and adding storage boxes, benches and lights. Overall, I think the new arena could be a lot better, but it could be a lot worse, and I definitely learned a lot from doing it. For example, I learned how to use the array tool as a quick way to make lots of stories for building in Blender. I also learned the importance of spending time planning to make it as simple as possible while still being fun to play. I've also made some updates to the enemy due to an error from before. Occasionally the enemy will get stuck for some reason, even though it should be able to move. I have no idea why this happens, but I'm just going to ignore it and hope for the best. Yeah, well, the problem got a lot worse in the new arena, so I can't ignore it anymore. I still have no idea what the problem was, but I just created the enemy again and somehow that fixed it. I also made some other minor tweaks to the enemy. I used raycast to check if the enemy could see the player before attacking. If you don't know, a raycast is basically when you fire a ray with an origin and direction, and you can get information from anything it's hit. Additionally, I added a particle effect for when the enemy shoots. That's it for this devlog, but in the next one I plan to make another weapon and polish the game a bit before releasing a demo. Thanks for watching.